Delhi, the capital city of India, was plunged into shock on March 7, 2022, when a chilling crime unfolded in the quiet neighbourhood of Karol Bagh. Nisha, a 28-year-old woman who had recently married Rajesh, was found murdered in her apartment. The tragedy was not an ordinary act of violence. It was a horrifying culmination of obsession, betrayal, and unrequited love. Nisha was a bright, charismatic woman whose charm had attracted many admirers during her college years. Among them was Surendra, a reserved yet deeply passionate man who became captivated by her. Their relationship blossomed in the early days of their youth, but as time passed, cracks began to surface. Nisha, focused on her career and dreams, found herself drifting apart from Surendra's overbearing nature and possessiveness. Despite her attempts to move on, Surendra never accepted the end of their relationship. For him, Nisha was not just a chapter of his life, but the entire story. When Nisha announced her engagement to Rajesh, a successful businessman, Surendra's fragile world shattered. The news triggered a dangerous obsession, and his love turned into a toxic fixation. Nisha and Rajesh's marriage was a joyous occasion. Surendra, though not invited, kept a close watch on their lives through social media and mutual acquaintances. He became increasingly agitated, often muttering to himself about how Nisha betrayed him. In the weeks leading up to the murder, Surendra's behaviour grew erratic. He was seen frequenting Nisha's neighbourhood under the guise of visiting friends. Witnesses later reported spotting him loitering near her apartment building, his eyes filled with an unsettling intensity. On the evening of March 7, 2022, Nisha received an unexpected message from Surendra, her former boyfriend. He sounded melancholic, requesting to meet her just once as a friend. "I miss talking to you," he wrote, adding that he only wanted closure and to see her happy. Reluctant but sympathetic, Nisha agreed to meet him in her apartment, unaware of his true intentions. Surendra arrived later that evening, carrying a bouquet of flowers as a facade. He appeared calm initially, thanking her for allowing him to visit. They spoke briefly, with Surendra reminiscing about their past. However, as the conversation progressed, his demeanour changed. His words turned accusatory, filled with anger and resentment. He blamed Nisha for moving on too quickly and leaving him behind. Nisha, sensing the escalating tension, tried to defuse the situation. "Surendra, this isn't fair," she pleaded. "We've both moved on. Please, let go." But her words only fueled his anguish. Surendra's obsession took over, and in a sudden, uncontrollable rage, he pulled out a knife he had concealed and attacked her. Nisha's screams echoed briefly before they were muffled by the walls of the apartment. Neighbours later admitted hearing noises, but dismissed them as a quarrel. By the time they decided to check, the apartment was silent. Surendra had fled, leaving behind the flowers and a scene of unspeakable tragedy. When Rajesh returned the following day, he found his wife lifeless, her dreams and their shared future extinguished in a single act of violence. Rajesh returned the next morning to find the apartment door ajar. Inside, he discovered the lifeless body of his wife, her blood staining the floor and her once bright eyes now void of life. Overwhelmed with grief, he called the police, setting off a high-profile investigation. The police found several clues pointing to Surendra as the prime suspect. Witnesses placed him near the apartment that night, and his fingerprints were found on the door handle. A knife matching the murder weapon was recovered from a nearby alley. The investigation into Nisha's brutal murder began immediately after Rajesh discovered her lifeless body on the morning of March 8, 2022. The Delhi police launched a thorough probe, determined to find the culprit behind such a heinous act. During the forensic examination of the crime scene, the investigators recovered Nisha's phone. A detailed analysis of her call and message history revealed a troubling clue: a string of recent messages and calls from Surendra, her former boyfriend. The messages clearly showed Surendra had contacted her on the day of the murder, requesting to meet. The police dug deeper, obtaining location data from the mobile service provider. It revealed that Surendra had been near Nisha's apartment on the evening of March 7th, aligning perfectly with the estimated time of the crime. CCTV footage from nearby streets further corroborated his presence, capturing him entering the vicinity and leaving shortly after the suspected time of the murder. With this evidence in hand, the police launched a manhunt for Surendra. His phone records showed erratic movements in the days following the murder, as he attempted to evade capture by frequently changing locations. However, his efforts proved futile. On March 17, 2022, after 10 days of relentless pursuit, the police traced him to a relative's house in a remote part of the city. Surendra was taken into custody without resistance. During interrogation, He initially denied involvement, but faced with the overwhelming evidence, he eventually confessed to the crime, revealing the depths of his obsession and rage. His arrest brought some solace to Nisha's grieving family and marked the first step toward justice. In police custody, Surendra confessed to the crime. "She was mine," he muttered during interrogation, his voice a mixture of remorse and delusion. "I couldn't let her belong to someone else." He admitted to meticulously planning the murder, driven by a toxic mix of jealousy, heartbreak, and rage. However, he showed no true remorse for his actions, insisting that Nisha's marriage to Rajesh had left him no choice. Surendra was charged with first-degree murder, breaking and entering, and other related crimes. As the case went to trial, it gripped the city, sparking debates about the dangers of unchecked obsession and toxic relationships. Nisha's tragic death became a cautionary tale, highlighting the dark consequences of possessive love. For Rajesh, the loss was immeasurable. A life filled with promise and happiness shattered in an instant. The haunting memory of Nisha's murder continues to resonate, serving as a reminder of the thin line between love and obsession and how crossing it can lead to devastating consequences.